welcome back. This is the poet Izzy Human with the philosopher Dunamis on this week's episode number 18. My goodness. Fight for action, y'all. Please be sure to hit that like button on your way in. And if you like us, consider subscribing to keep up with our episodes on YouTube and give us a follow on X.
Fightcast is here to empower individuals to live healthier, master finances, pursue their dreams, and inspire others through self-awareness and global impact. This is for entertainment and educational purposes only, and not financial advice.
Dunamis, how you doing?
Well, yeah, it's been kind of a rough week for me, to be honest. It's been tough, man, but we're here. We're being consistent. We're not going to take a week off. You know what I'm saying? You can't always have it your way right away, you know. But how's your week been?
It's been productive. It's been very productive. I've been able to turn on another switch of education. So shout out to you. You and I have been going back and forth with a lot of things that we're working on here. And no, I'm not going to share it. You'll see it when it happens. But yeah, really excited and just been having a lot of great conversations with great people, man. And it's been awesome. I got a project that's going to be released April 11th here, y'all, called Just Because. Production by myself. It's just an Izzy Human project. So I apologize for the self promotion there. Just wanted to get that out of the woodwork here real quick, and we can proceed. But I think it actually ties into what we're talking about anyway.
It does. It does perfectly, man. The idea of taking action, of creating, you are the pinnacle of a creative person. You put out new albums, you put out new music. I see your videos on YouTube. This stuff comes across on X and on YouTube on a regular basis in my feed, and it's exciting. I think this episode is actually a great opportunity to look back, and I just pulled up all of the episodes that we've done to this point.
Oh man.
Because yes. There really is, if you think about it, I mean, we started with food, right? And we talked about money, we've talked about music, freedom, we've talked about, Cardano and cryptocurrencies. We got into our why with community. We got into more about food and where it comes from with farming. We talked about the mind and a strategy and patience and the truth to set a foundation for why it is we're doing and what it is we really want to do. And wow. Then we talked about gold. We talked about artists. We got into respect, taking a rest, having purpose, and finally AI. And what we're talking about now is we've talked enough. We've had three sets of 6 episodes here. This is episode number 18. This is 3 6s, right? Yeah. And I don't know the significance of all of that, but I can tell you that I believe that everything that we've talked about to this point doesn't make a lot of sense unless you actually put it into action. If you start to take the steps. If it's food, for everybody, this is going to be something different. And so this is why we had to talk about all these different things. But maybe you need to start saving money. Maybe you need to eat better. Maybe you need to work out. Maybe you need to, whatever this is springtime, spring cleaning. It's a time to refresh, rejuvenate your life, and take a look at what things we can pull and take out and get out of the way. It's also a little, interesting that the stock market has flushed so much recently as well. I mean, there's really a whole purging that's going on. That's kind of how I feel about it this week. We're continuing to push through and perform the actions and do what we need to do, despite the fact that, maybe the markets don't look right. Maybe it doesn't feel right all the time. Right.
Right. You were naming all of those episodes and I was thinking, wow, we did all of those. Absolutely. We did. That's quite a feat. quite a feat to be at episode 18 and then 19 and then 20. My
Yeah,
goodness. Wow. I remember when we were saying, yeah, just wait till we get to 10.
I know. It's yeah, it's funny but even now where we're at is still just a beginning. Like this is still just we're saying action, and this is still just it's like in the Hollywood movies where they've got that little clip and they're like action, right?
Yep.
It's the start, it's not the end.
No, it's not. This is only the beginning, the genesis, as you will. We're just getting started, barely scratching the surface with a lot of it. We've got more of us, more guest speakers, just so much this year, 2025. And man, I really like the efficiency of spring cleaning this year for some reason. And I feel like I'm around some pretty cool people. So to talk with a lot of people that are smarter than me and how their spring cleaning and their design, it's very unique, and it's very cool to watch. Very cool to watch. And it's also very cool to listen. And then you're spring cleaning in your own space, and there's been some inspiration with that. So yeah, really excited. Really, really excited. Well,
I
all of it. Yeah. It's just like we keep writing these things down. We keep bringing in this knowledge, and there's never a dull moment. There's never a moment of, all right, I'm bored. It's never that. We always write it down, and then we go after it. It's been the secret sauce, y'all. Cat's out of the bag. Krabby Patty formula.
It is, and I think back to when we first talked about doing this podcast and about how there was really a period of a month or two where we were writing down ideas, talking about it, and we had to get the intro done. So we reached out, we had, an artist work on that, and there was back and forth. There was, hey, this is great. This is, fix this part, can you please put the word fight on the mat, things like that. And it's interesting as you're sort of taking those first steps and walking through, but it really can be hard to even get started. I know there's so many things that can come in, and just between being discouraged or just feeling like it's either not the right time or there's not enough funds or whatever sort of words come in. What is it that you do, Izzy, to get past that part,
Just, I know this is going to sound a little crazy, guys, but I have this thing where it's like Pavlov, where if you hit the button or the bell, the dog will come. I have this inner thought now that just says, do it, do it, do it. And it's almost like an energizer bunny, where it's like banging in your head a little bit in the most healthy way possible. But like it could be anything from go to bed, go to bed, go to bed, or it's time to do a song, time to do a song, or relax, 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 or you're procrastinating. But that took time, and that's definitely something that I would even put emphasis on now. Is just exercising that mental, because I feel that once you get a bigger grasp on you and what you expect out of you, the expectation from others, it's who see you, it's anticipated already. They don't have to tell you that. You already know it, right? Getting right with that mental definitely helps.
I wonder how much of it too, when you're procrastinating, when things are getting pushed off. I can tell you, for me, there was always this desire to avoid those things that didn't weren't pleasant. You know what I'm saying? Like when I weighed way too much. I mean, to the point where it was difficult to get out and walk a few miles.
Mhm.
And when you're at that point, you have to just get started to even for and a lot of people are at that point, in their health. And so sometimes you have to walk with swollen feet for a little while. You know what I'm saying? You have to force your way through that kind of pain and stuff. And so
Exactly.
I can tell you from having to take those baby steps and not see a lot come from it for a long time. Sometimes you have just from I love taking walks now. I take a walk every single day. I love it. And I feel like it's done a lot for my health. I know I could still lose some weight, but definitely has been a 180 from where I was before. And I think it's on those really hot and sweaty days, it's the ability to embrace and like I now love going out and walking, and if I get all hot and sweaty and it's uncomfortable, I know I'm going to come back home and take a shower and be just fine. So it's it's sort of strange that that would be something that would have kept me from going out and enjoying a walk every day. But
Hmm.
sometimes I think it was even the same way. I know this is another sort of strange aside, but I'm trying to paint maybe some metaphors here. But I didn't like eating tomatoes for a really long time, and
Okay.
then
Yeah. I
and
don't
then
disagree with you.
I had to like my at one point in time in my life, my grandmother made me sit down and eat. I had to eat everything that was on my plate before I could go out and have fun, you know, do my thing. And so it wasn't until, you know, and I lived with her for an entire summer, and over the course of that summer, I really I grew to love, really enjoy everything that I ate, and including the tomatoes that very often came from the garden in her backyard. And they were absolutely delicious tomatoes. But I learned to love tomatoes through this repetition. Like I didn't love them before I started to eat them. It was it was after I started taking that action. And so sometimes things we don't like, we feel like, well, you know, we have to do it. But as you start to do it, you know, I mean, there's pleasure in the grind, and that's something that I think, you know, people that enjoy working out are the people that work out the most. You know, so
Hmm.
just to use working out as an example, but it's the same thing with anything with diet. You can't force yourself into a diet that you don't enjoy. You're not going to stick with it. You're not going to like it. It's not going to change your life. I think I'm learning so much now. Life is about taking that initial action and then incrementally making improvements, baby steps. Like that first step is going to be a misstep. It's probably going to look really ugly. But as you start making step after step after step, like you get better. It takes it takes a few steps to get the hang of
Right.
it.
You set goals. I like setting mini goals for myself as well. Everything from if I want to wake up at a certain time, I want to make sure I make my bed, make sure I brush my teeth, wash my face, all of those things. And all of those things are incremental, as you mentioned. I know that I'm going to make myself a breakfast smoothie. Okay. This is what I've been doing for however many weeks now. I know I'm going to do this. I know that I'm going to get my workout today. I know that I'm going to meditate at least twice. I know that I'm going to work on a song. So setting all of these small goals, and this is all different for everybody. So I feel that those small victories lead up to the bigger victories as well. And that also keeps us present more than focused on things that aren't there yet. So all of those things are just good practices of just understanding that action is more than just the big play. It's not just the 89 punt return. It's the 5 yard, 10 yards, and it's the setup for the play action. And then we're going to go ahead and pop that bad boy up in the air one time for the one time. You know, that's how I look at it. It's like chess too, brother. You know, that's all of it. When you, it's so interesting when you think about action and you think about even in nature how action is performed, and you think about how long it takes for a tree to grow or how long it takes for something to bud, and you think about everything that's happening inside of that in order for us to even physically visually see these things too. And that's not something that just happens overnight. It takes time. Again, it's a step by step process. So I feel that as humans, when we get ahead of ourselves, and it's a really good way for us to, again, retract, maybe humble ourselves in that way. Think about the beauty of nature. That didn't just happen overnight. You know, unless you're Clark Kent and you're Superman and you've got a phone booth in your backyard, or it's probably a charging station now. Um, then I'd say we're all human here.
Yeah,
We got to be
definitely.
nice to each. We got to be nice. We got to be nice to ourselves too. That's another thing. We got to be nice to ourselves. We got to stop being so hard on ourselves. It's very easy to just get wrapped into what this person and that person is doing and the performance and work, and then compare, and really you're subconsciously comparing that day to how you approach this with this and that. And self-awareness is good, but beating yourself up is another thing. You gotta you gotta keep that even keel of it. Be able to home those emotions, understand why you have those emotions, but also understand that those emotions are temporary too. That definitely helps with the steps, I feel. Those are also goal settings. Like, say something nice about yourself at least once a day. If not more. I would recommend more, but steps, right?
Oh yeah, there could be things that are happening that are holding you back from taking action because, because you need to change the way you see yourself. You need to change your mindset, and those affirmations I think are absolutely critical and important for that. So treating yourself correctly is sort of step number one, I think, for a lot of this. And then beyond that, I think the things that scare us, fear is something that has to be confronted head on,
Mm.
because doubt and fear, remember, we're talking about a lot of different things, so we could definitely pigeonhole in on one particular topic. We could talk about maybe you're wanting to start saving money, whatever that is, as an example, and we'll just focus on that for a second. The fear might be, if I start saving money, I'm not going to have enough left at the end of I'm not going to have everything I need to pay all my bills. I'm not going to do all that stuff, right? There are ways to start to take little actions. And so, what I would say to help overcome some of that fear, in my particular case, I like to save in very liquid assets that I could, if I need to back out of it, something like Bitcoin or gold. You're not going to ever have trouble, selling those things again if you need to. It's different than buying NFTs. you know, I've spent enough money on NFTs to know the difference. And so if you're gonna save, have a plan for how you're going to get out of those savings at some point. But the fear of saying, "Oh, I'm not going to have enough," if you know that I could always sell my Bitcoin if I needed to, and I know that Bitcoin maxis will hate me for saying that, but if you have that knowledge in your back pocket, and you know that, then take that money out at the beginning of the month. That's the action. Is saying, I'm going to take that money out first. I'm going to pay myself first and put that aside, and I'm going to trust that I'm going to have enough, and then don't overextend yourself, right?
Right.
But this is just a strategy. This is a strategy that I used to help myself start to save money and not be afraid of it. And sometimes I learned the hard way by overextending myself, by saving too much, and oh gosh, I didn't have what I expected at the end of the month. But that's an easy thing to solve for. You either just don't save as much the next month, or you make adjustments as you go. But
Hmm.
the fear is what keeps us from ever starting. You have to start taking action and then adjust as you go, I think.
Oh yeah. Knowing that fear and doubt exist, that's one thing. Letting fear and doubt exist in your world, and when I say your world, your mind, that's another thing too. You have to respect the space that it does occupy. that doesn't mean that you have to occupy or be in that space. So acknowledging that it does exist is, I think that's important. Knowing that you have the option to let that exist in your space is another thing too. That's another good mental action step of just being able to separate those things. And again, looking at the Libra scale of life and looking at that line that we walk on a daily basis. It's not the big steps. Again, it's not the froggy steps. It's all of those things that happen in between that really lead up to, these actions, whether they be impulsive actions or whatever the case may be, man. But um, and just knowing too that in life we operate off of action. We do. There's functionality to this action that we do, and so much that our actions can be what measured. Yeah, performances. It's
Yeah.
we've really made a mathematical equation off of action.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, there's math, there's science, there's physics, there's all of this that goes into it, and it's been really kind of blowing my mind recently, as I meditate and take walks and think about a lot of this stuff. And I know you and I had a conversation offline about passive income and about
Yeah.
how the dream is to be able to just let income come in on a monthly basis. It's just time passes, and then bam, another check comes in. Time passes, bam, another check comes in. And yet that is kind of how science and nature and the world works, where even like farming, in that situation, the farmer takes the seed, sows the seed. There's a reaction. There's chemical things that happen in the soil. The seed germinates. It sends down the taproot, and the plant grows. And like the parables say, the farmer, we sow the seed, and maybe we have to water it a little bit, but God sends rain. God sends the sun.
Mhm.
You know, nature grows this plant for us, and that's passive income, man. You do the
Yes.
work one time, and then in the fall you reap a harvest.
Right. And when you think about checks too, also consider checkpoints. It's
Mm.
another way of thinking about it as well. You think about photosynthesis and you think about metamorphosis and you think about all of these milestones and these checkpoints. However you look at it, and if you define that checkpoint of as currency in check two, those things all come. Like you said, you got to put forth the action. You've got to let the water do its thing. And the other thing in nature too is again knowing that doubt exists and fear exists. When we want flowers but we complain when there's rain.
Mhm. We want to complain about these things that are happening in our life, not realizing that it's producing fruit, right?
Yes, yes, 100%. I'm so glad that you wrapped it back into that too, because we are the seeds and we are the flowers, we are the plants. We're so minor when you look at it in the grand scheme of things, where we are the ant. I was just talking with somebody about that. I said, man, it's wild, just how little we are when you're around nature. And to the ant, we look huge, but to somebody else, we are the ant, and we're seed to it's something even further beyond. Uh,
Oh yeah. The I was in the garden here today actually looking at the tomato plants that are
uh,
growing, and they're
yeah.
starting to put a canopy up over some of the other, like I have basil plants coming in the same beds. I have onions, I have some carrots. It's pepper plants.
Mm,
But I pruned the pepper plants by taking the middle stalk off. And so I'm stunting those plants to grow out like a bush.
okay.
Where, whereas the tomato plants, I took all of the runners off that were low, and any branches that were going out to cause the stalk to grow strong, and the plant to grow tall.
Okay.
So what it is, as I was looking at it, I was looking down at this little world I had created, and it reminded me of the canopy of trees in a jungle I was looking down into. It was like this little universe of but instead of trees, they were tomato plants, and instead of shrubs, they were little onions and other things that were coming in, and it reminded me exactly of that it's like everything in the universe zoomed in and zoomed out. It's all the same patterns over and over again. It's beautiful.
I feel that, especially creatively with music and collaborating with DJ Deflord, especially with Charcuterie Board and Call Volume One, and we have this process that we go through too. We're both night owls, so we do our thing during the day. We'll converse during the day, start chopping it up, throw some different ideas at one another. 2:30 comes around, here we are. Well, actually, it starts maybe a little bit sooner than that, maybe like 12:30, 1 o'clock. Then we'll go to about 3:30, until we get tired. Usually at that point, we will have carved out a good 30 tracks, and we'll just go through, and I'll go through, pick apart them, and pick the ones that I feel best go with the theme of the project. And but just the action of doing that, it creates it creates a good intimate bond between that producer and that artist. And we recognize that, from a creative standpoint too. And especially in this digital world where I'm not in his studio and he's not in mine, those things we both recognize are important. And then, but just with these projects specifically, these were just very eclectic projects. So there was a lot of trial. I wouldn't say that there was error. There was definitely lessons in it for sure. Maybe a little bit more saturation. I wouldn't say that I would have liked, because honestly, it fit the theme of the project all in all. But it was definitely just something like I learned that you don't. And I was talking to our publisher about this as well, who's also a music artist and very, very bright, very intelligent. And that's an understatement. But when you learn these basic fundamentals of just mixing and trying different stuff, you get to a point where it just gets really boring to follow the rules in that space. It's like, okay, I know where my sound should be and adjustments to make sure I'm not peaking and this and that and the third. Okay, those are all established, but I want to throw a ridiculous distortion on this thing and see how grungy I can get with it. I'm staying within the lines of it. And yeah, if it fits the aesthetic of what I'm working with, great. If it doesn't, then maybe a phaser or a flanger, or maybe something else that I can just come up with. But just the not being afraid and just taking the action steps. And who knows, you might find things that you do like that may not fit that song particularly, and it might go back on another one. Just save it, and then plug and play, that type of deal. So, music artist wise, musically speaking, don't be afraid to just try those things. Don't get in your head
I,
about what other people think.
that's interesting that you say that in that way, because it reminds me of very similar in programming. And I feel like we've even had this conversation before, but it's so if I'm repeating myself from an earlier episode, I apologize. But
No, I'd love
I
to hear it.
I what you're describing is a form of mastery. So it's basically the idea that you've learned the rules, and in programming that would be like the solid principles. You SOLID, which is single responsibility principle. There's the open closed principle.
Hmm.
There's I name them all off right now. Liskov something or another. But the point being, there are these fundamental design patterns and rules that you're supposed to follow, almost like music theory. And
Hmm.
so it's when you learn all of the rules and you learn all of the patterns that a great developer knows where these rules can be broken. And so you're not really able to go in and break all the rules as a junior, as a mid-level person. It's a sign of mastery, because somebody who isn't a master who's breaking the rules typically doesn't have good results. It's an indication of the fact that they don't know what they're doing.
Right.
Whereas somebody who is typically within the lines, that very specifically and intentionally weaves outside of the lines in an artistic way, where it makes sense, and that is a skill, and it's a beautiful thing to see in music and in architecture and in software and in all of that, is where you can take, all of those fundamental things and then add add an extra little bit on it.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
You get to a point where they become guidelines more than anything. And and it made me think while you were talking, it made me think about high school. And it made me, because there was a level of resentment that I had, and that's just from not knowing. But the regurgitation method that all high schools had for your SATs, your ACTs, your proficiency exams, we were taking those in the third grade, I believe, third, fourth grade. It just made me think about that. But I also realized just in life, the regurgitation of and the repetition, just in general, repetition of life. So when you think about it in that realm, number one, I think I'm pretty sure episodes ago I said something that was like a bit controversial, and that was like, fight me in the comments for it. I am not coming at our teachers, okay? I know that I've said this before, but I am not coming at our teachers at all. Okay, our teachers are the most underpaid, the most underrated professions out there, and they have our kids, and by our kids I mean your kids, for for hours at a time if they're not homeschooled. It's not an easy task being an educator. It's not. What I'm saying is just how the curriculum was set up and designed for us in that space. And we could talk politics, but I'll say this. I'll say this just a little bit. I feel that our curriculum is going to see some shifts here soon, and I'm curious to see. I wouldn't say the outcome, but just the progression in it.
Yeah, I
Evolution.
agree. There definitely needs to be a wholesale change in the educational system in America. I've been very much upsetting my family members on Facebook as I talk about it, but and I've said this on X, from my personal account. I try to stay a little less controversial, as funny as that sounds, from the fight account. I would probably rather I'd rather just, promote the project, and I do talk politics on the fight account, but from my personal account, there is no filter most of the time. And I really think there is a huge problem with the educational system in America, but it is not to put a blame on, definitely not to put a blame on teachers, not to put a blame on anyone. The way it was initially set up, and we can get political with it and go back to Andrew Carnegie and John D. Rockefeller. John D. Rockefeller was very instrumental in putting, I believe it was about $1 million at the time, which nowadays is quite a bit more.
Mhm.
And you know, the reason, and there's very famous quotes from John D. Rockefeller, that he was not interested in a nation of thinkers. He wanted a nation of workers. And so the educational system in America was modeled after educational systems that were really almost set up more like penal systems,
Mm.
where you had to raise your hand to speak, where you had to ask to go use the restroom, where you got fed at certain times, where there's alarm bells to tell you when to move to certain locations. I mean, this entire thing was set up to train American people to be more submissive
Yeah.
and
Give
obedient
consent. Yeah.
in a lot of that stuff. And we're not saying this now to rile people up. This is not about. I'd say this has been going on for many, many decades. I think we're well past um, burning Teslas over this thing. This is a situation where,
Are we?
um, well, some of us are, most of us are. Um, eh, this is really a time where the adults in the room need to sit down and talk about, what do we really want out of an educational system. And I can tell you that just training people to move around by bell sounds is not. maybe it did well for factory workers back in the days when we're, you know, spitting Model Ts off of the Ford factory line. But nowadays, it really makes sense, I think, to go back to a system that is more like the system that the wealthy children had access to before that time. There was a classical educational system in the United States, and
Mm.
and you probably didn't have access to this education if you were not well off, you know, but they were the kids that had access to education were taught how to think, how to reason, how to learn, how to teach. You know,
Yes.
there's a few years where you learn some facts, you learn how to regurgitate some facts when you're a little kid. But as you grow into middle school, high school years, you're learning logic, you learn rhetoric, there's learning how to reason, how to express yourself. All of these things are not the focus of attention today. And so when I say this is not something to rise up and burn things about, the action is what we're talking about here, because all of these things that we're talking about, all of these, you know, this information isn't secret. We're not bringing any groundbreaking information in this podcast. What we're doing is just sharing with you a strategy for, if you understand that the education system is designed to push you through but not necessarily teach you how to think, then it's incumbent upon us as individuals to learn how to think on our own and
Mhm.
teach others around us how to think, teach our kids how to think, teach our friends how to think, teach others to like and subscribe and listen to this podcast so they can learn how to think. And we are going to share and spread this information with the masses. It's not enough anymore just to regurgitate information and be part of the sheeple class. It's important for us all to take personal responsibility for ourselves and our family. And if you're awake, if you know what's going on, it's time now. There's no more time to sit around and learn more. You know enough to take the first steps, and you can learn as you go.
Right. And it's time for us to break the cycle. It's time for us to realize that it's not the well off who receive the highest education, because education is wealth. Well, you have to bring that back into the light. And everybody deserves that wealth of education, being a citizen here in the United States of America. We are entitled to that education, whether you want to receive it, whether you choose to receive it or not. And frankly, I even feel that when provided with a sustainable resource, more people are more likely to gravitate towards it, because it's something that can ultimately help guide them, versus being in these systems now and it just being pointless when there are other choices, and they may not be the best choices. But when you live in a when you've lived in a capitalistic world where we just you got to have money to do this and that and the third, and we've always used money as a means of stature, and we've idolized movie stars and celebrities, and at that's the other thing. And I'm not even going to put that on the star themselves. I feel that we have put these stars on pedestals, and now they feel pressure too. And I mean, gosh, how many times have we listen to our favorite celebrity talk about the anxiety that they get from being in these public rooms, because they don't want to make mistakes, because they're afraid of being put on a tabloid the next day on just being a human, and because we judge them. That's that part. We judge them. So all of that. How would you feel, right? Like you don't want to you don't want to walk into Kroger and see that the butter is a dollar more than what you can afford, and then walk out, right? That's embarrassing a little bit, and someone just picked it up like it was nothing, right? Because they were going to get it regardless. So look at it from those perspectives too. But to go back to what I was saying originally, the wealth is knowledge, and everyone deserves that. They are entitled to that as a human. And I feel that the people with knowledge and people that have acquired that type of wealth have an obligation to put that out there and not have these weird loopholes and these mini clauses that you have to use microscopes to read. It's not supposed to be this difficult to live and to be a human. It shouldn't be this difficult to just live and not survive. We've set this up on purpose over time to favor the winner. And whoever the winner is, whatever, y'all can define that however you want. But I was always told, and a wise adage once said, that the winners wrote the books.
Yeah, that's true. The history books, they I don't know if it was Napoleon that said that, or maybe it's
I
just
think
maybe it's
Napoleon
just
did say
British.
that. I
Okay.
think Napoleon did say that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's true, man. I mean, like that it makes a lot of sense. And knowing that, so much of this is sort of built around I'm gonna put my philosophy hat on here a little bit, and you know logical reasoning, you can take it all the way back to that I think therefore I am, right? And there's the the struggles of the competition of life, and I just I've thought about how it's probably inevitable that you could play out the simulation of the universe billions and billions of times or trillions of times, and it would probably always play out the same way, in that there are going to be a set of people who figure out certain life hacks. Let's just call it that. It's not magic. There's no maybe there is magic, maybe maybe I just don't know, but I know that there are definitely secrets in this world. There are things that, if make life easier. And it's not one thing, there's a whole sum of them, and a lot of that is stuff that, as we learn and dig in, the word esoteric just means that it's hidden, right? It's something that somebody figured out at some point in time and decided they didn't want to share that with somebody else. And you know and you could say, hey, I figured out that if I go out in the sun every day, I don't get sick, right? And I can encode that into some form of religion where they pray to the sun or whatever that is, right? But that knowledge has very scientific roots. There's stuff that we're discovering very much now about the importance of the sun and what it means for that sun to kiss our skin on a daily basis as we go outside is so important to our health. And then you start to think, well, if somebody had this information, if they really knew and understood in a way that maybe many of the masses didn't understand at this point in time, and they had the ability to say, I don't know, tell everybody to go inside and not go outside, or wear sunscreen that had a bunch of chemicals in it that would keep the sun from actually healing them, I struggle with the idea that there are people that are evil enough in this world that, having this esoteric knowledge, use it to harm others. And I've had to come to grips with the real possibility of that being the truth of this world, of this country that we live in. It's a heavy thing to say on this podcast, and I'm not going to edit all of that out either. I just that's you have to be awake and you have to understand the rules of the game, and you have to be fully aware of what's going on around you to take the right action. Otherwise, your action is going to be wrong, right? You're going to misstep. So, a big part of education and understanding what's around you is the foundation of everything that we're doing. We're trying to raise awareness. We're trying to wake people up to the reality of this world so that they can take action to improve their own individual lot in life and
Right.
do it in the right direction.
I want to raise the bar. I want to raise the bar. I know that you said, I think, therefore I am. I want to raise the bar and say, I am, therefore I think. And I say that in that space because when you know who you are, then those actions and those formulas and those equations become more clear in what you have to do when you are when you are that person, knowing who you are. And the I was doing a little bit of reading here. This was a few months back, and it was showing a high percentage of people that actually suffer from imposter syndrome. And to sum up what imposter syndrome is, it's just not believing you are who you say you are and thinking that people see through your facade. And there's different types of imposter syndrome too. Definitely do some research into it. So we all exhibit it in certain ways where even if you're saying something that may seem educated, you might pick apart your own, let's say, speech versus what Ken did and said, oh, well, one more person applauded than the one person who didn't applaud for mine. And then you're thinking about that the entire time. That's one form of it. But again, going back into the I am, therefore I think, and all of that, just breaking that cycle of just you knowing your name is a step and it seems very rudimentary, and it almost seems, because they fight me in the comments, because some people, we can talk about names and we can talk about origins of names. That could be a whole nother fight episode for sure, but just knowing your name. And I mean, honestly, the way that I'm saying it is general enough for you to A, interpret it the way that you want, but B, just understand what I mean holistically when I say that. Just because that in itself is a power, of just knowing your name. And then from there, the evolution of identity begins. And we talked about community, we've talked about a lot of things, guys. Highly recommend you go back and take a listen to, because everything ties together with this. And I'm really proud of us, man. I'm really, really proud of us. I'm really looking forward to episode 10,000. Shoot, I know that we're never going to run out of things to say. And with all of this, that all just comes down to just coming in every week and doing this. We have the most unorthodox way of going about how we do this, Gal, but it's been something that I feel that each episode that we've done has been very unique. And I feel that our experience prior to it always correlates to it. When we did Fight for Rest, that was one. And Dunamis and I both had taken a mini vacation at that time because we both said, listen, our brains just need a reset, hardwire. And we did it. We took the action of doing that. We knew that we needed that for ourselves because health is wealth. And how we went about doing it, it worked out. And it really made the flow of that episode super dope because we were just living what we were saying. And that's something that, as a musician, as a music artist, I should say, I'm sorry, not just a musician, as an artist, living what I'm saying is something that has always been key to all of my music. And I feel that that correlates with relevance as well. And it's not about being relevant to the trend or anything like that, but just again, eliminating that imposter syndrome too. I find that there's more impact in my words when I'm living what I'm saying. So there's more, you feel it more. And I feel that the audience can grasp onto those things versus when it's not as authentic as it should be or it sounds.
Yeah, I can say again, it always in my mind comes back to programming, but I can say, as somebody who has dealt with imposter syndrome quite a bit in my career, this is something that the typical advice, at least when I was going through it, was always the fake it till you make it
Hmm.
kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Oh yeah.
And there's a little bit of a problem with that, I think. And I agree with it in principle, but I would just caution, especially against that word fake, because there's a problem with that word. You kind of understand where I'm going with this, and
Oh yeah.
that is you need to be real to yourself, and at the same time you can act and put on a mask and put on the persona of what it is and who it is you want to become and what it is you want to be. I don't see any problem with that. The problem is when you're gonna fake it till you make it, it it presupposes that you don't believe that you are actually that person.
That
And
part.
there you go. And if you don't believe it, it can't happen.
Mm. You've already blocked yourself. Yes, that is incredible. Very wise. I love that karmic. That's a very karmic response because that digs right into the subconscious of it. You're just you have already embedded in yourself that this isn't me, but this is who I want to be. So you've already split the atom
Mm, yeah.
right then and there, right then and there. So when these actions you perform, when you start to put them into the world, you start putting your energy into the world instead of the subconscious and your words being parallel and attracting those things, you're going to get maybe half of that. You're not going to get all of it.
Mhm.
And as a human, of course, nothing is perfect. But as the old saying goes, it was pretty damn close, right? It was pretty damn close. And yeah, go ahead.
Now it can be the opening step. So there's nothing wrong with so many people I think stumble into the right scenario because they start by faking it, and then maybe that's a part of what we're talking about by taking action. Because now, forget the idea of faking it, because the idea of faking it I do think is the wrong subconscious message
Yeah.
to
How do
send
we
yourself.
how do we flip that? How do we flip that? What word do we put in place of fake?
We could say like grind till you make it. Right? I mean, because that's
Maybe.
really what it is. You just have to start. You have to take action, start, and you have to grind at what it is. Because just like this podcast, and I hate to say it, we don't have a ton of subscribers yet, but it doesn't, and for me, it doesn't feel like a grind because I enjoy doing this. But
Hey,
it's something that you have to get into the habit of doing a regular, and just like you're trying to master something or learn something new. I mean, you're not faking it till you make it. I just think is the wrong way to think about it. Just
believe it.
do believe it and do a lot of work.
Believe it and make it. Believe it and make it.
Believe it and make it, and become who it is that you want to become, because you can be whoever it is you want to be. You just have to believe it, and you have to work at it. And it starts with action. If you don't ever take that first step, it's only ever a dream. It's only ever an idea. Don't let your dreams and ideas die.
Don't kill your inner child. I've mentioned that a few times too. That inner child is the child of imagination that you had when you were a little kid and you were drawing all those weird pictures and didn't know what they were. All of those, and I'm not saying they had meaning in that space, but just in the sense of your imagination being a reality of what in art form in that space. Don't kill that inner child. It's the I feel that that is a piece of us that we miss for. And then, I feel that even, that's something that's definitely kept me very youthful over the course of 30 plus years, is just remembering those promises that I made to my 7-year-old self, that I would never stop having fun. And not that life is just one big party and I'm going to get messed up. But I mean, dude, I love skateboarding. I still want to skateboard. I still want to snowboard and be on, jump out of planes and do that thing where you're like a kite and you're flying in the air. Like there's a lot of crazy stuff, and jump into freaking water around sharks in one of those cages. Like I want to do all of that stuff, man. And, age is just, and whatever they call this, like I'm taller now and I can use the bathroom by myself for a little bit longer.
That's great.
Action, baby.
Yeah. Oh,
Shoot,
man.
y'all. Thanks for coming out, y'all. Yeah,
Thank you, guys.
This has been great, man. This has been an excellent conversation. I love it, man. Episode 18 again, y'all. If you haven't, please jump up in there and give us a nice little hit on that subscribe and follow on X. And if you've liked what you heard this evening, or if you've made it to the end, I should say, what emoji you be feeling, man? I think we're gonna go with 100, right? What do you think?
100. Yep. Let's drop that 100 emoji in the comments if you guys made it to the end. And hey, man, we're gonna be here every single week. We're about to be in that React space, and we're gonna have to do something different, man. Like we're taking action. We don't know what it's gonna be yet, but we'll definitely be here next week.
Oh yeah, indubitably. Been great.
Awesome. All right. Well, never give up the fight.
Never give up the fight.
You could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. Looking for change, looking for pain, pulling a mob, pushing a train. I'll never stop, stick to a lane, pick up the pieces and go rearrange. I'll be the best above all the rest, put me to the test and expect nothing less, you check as I'm chess, what's happening next, yeah. He got the venom, a tangible weapon, no coming in second. This life is a lesson, he got a new engine from pain, it's a blessing. New focus, no guessing, just bold and obsession, all in his possession. You got their attention, I'll leave an impression and take your redemption. Just kill, no discretion, your mind is a weapon. 11-11, it's time for progression, You could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. People like sheep move feet, hurt it easy. You don't wanna be fast asleep when they're scheming. Better stand tall, ready for a fight, believe me. When they try the chains, you can say no, free me. So he's been looking for somebody who could save him, instead of searching inside for what they gave him. A strong will, strong mind causes mayhem. We could change the world, change times, rearrange them. Staying on pace, running the race. Life is a chase, I don't want a place, I wanna be first. Work till it hurts, dehydrated thirst till I'm in a hearse. High ambitions and the right mind can take you so far. It's like you lived a few lifetimes. Take off from a break off from the weak minds, they can stay soft. You can change lives, you create thoughts, never waste time. You got one shot, you got one life, better pop off. What do you like? Make a dream job. No 9-5, no mean boss, just my life and free thoughts. You could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. People like sheep move feet, hurt it easy. You don't wanna be fast asleep when they're scheming. Better stand tall, ready for a fight, believe me. When they try the chains, you can say no, free me.